What's up? I'm Sean Collins. I'm the esports reporter with the Dallas Morning News, and today there's some snow outside and it's super cold. So if anything flickers, don't blame me. Blame Krampus or something like that. I'm gonna be predicting OpTic Texas's entire schedule, as you can see up on my screen here. I'm basically just gonna predict win-loss for all the regular season online matches, and I have my most recent power rankings. I guess over here. Just to give context, if anybody watches this sometime in May and is wondering why this guy's such a clown, this is what I think of the teams right at this very moment. And so I'm going to guess all of their matches. I'm not going to try and guess majors right now just because I don't know who they're going to play or what their bracket's going to look like. So I'm not going to do that. But I am going to go ahead and just get started. I'm going to go one by one, and I'm going to try and make this not like a 20-minute video. I'm going to try and maybe keep it to 5 or something like that. I'm just going to go ahead and start. I think they win their opening match against London. London didn't look particularly great at the Kickoff Classic. I think that OpTic is going to start the season strong with a win there. I also do think that they beat Minnesota. But I do think that this is going to be a close match. I could see this being a 3-2. I think Minnesota is going to improve from the Kickoff Classic, but I do think OpTic is just a little bit better. Paris. I think this is another win for OpTic, and I don't think that the season is going to just be a bunch of wins, but I do think that this is a really favorable first pool play for the first major, which OpTic also hosts. That'll be in March at Esports Stadium, Arlington. Against Toronto, I do think that they lose this one. Toronto, I think, might be the best team in the league at this very moment. I do have Atlanta FaZe a little bit ahead. That's just out of respect from their former championship, but I do think that there's a good chance that Toronto is the best team in the league right now, so I am going to go ahead and say Toronto. I think that Boston is a good team too, and I know from talking with Rambo that they've been a team that has played OpTic very well in scrims. But I'm just gonna say that OpTic wins this one. I think that this is another opportunity for a 3-2. I think both the Minnesota match and the Boston match could be pretty close. So I'm just gonna go ahead and type flip for the matches that I think could go either way. So I'll just go ahead and do that for those two matches right here. For the LA Thieves, this is going to be after this first major, right? For the LA Thieves, I think that this could be a tough one, but I am going to say win with a flip. I think that the Thieves are good, but I think that OpTic just did not play very well against them in the major. They only had one good map, and they had kind of just decent moments across the rest of the maps. Against Seattle, I think they lose. I think Seattle is a really good team right now. I do think that they're a top 3 team, and they could sneak up into that S tier over in the power rankings. I think that they lose that one. And I know that Florida is lower in the power rankings, but I also know that the Dallas Empire struggled against Florida last year, specifically on connectivity issues. So I actually am going to say that OpTic loses this one, though I do think OpTic on LAN, just straight up between the two teams, I think OpTic is better. But I think that I'm just going to go ahead and just 5-head brain foresee some, connectivity stuff and this being weird. Because I know that Florida had an advantage against specific teams last year just because of where they were. And so I'm going to go ahead and just predict a loss there. I do think that OpTic is going to win this match right here against LAG. I don't think that I think LAG is going to take some time to figure it out, and I think that they need to do so without making roster changes. But again, this is, before matches have even started for the season, so this is also another kind of 5-head thing. Against Atlanta, I'm going to say that OpTic loses this one. I think that this matchup could change later in the season, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a really tough pool play right here for OpTic. just in general, I think any team would struggle to get through this gauntlet. I think Thieves, Seattle, and Atlanta are all really good teams. As you can see, I have them in my top 5, top 4 if you don't include OpTic. So I think that that's tough, but I still think that OpTic could do well at this major, especially if it gets to start in the losers bracket. Just getting into here, I think OpTic wins against LAG. I think OpTic wins the second time they play against Florida. Um, I'm going to go ahead and say that this time against Atlanta, they're still going to lose, but their win will come in a major against Atlanta. Um, Maybe send them to the losers bracket or something like that, but I am still going to say that they're going to lose to Atlanta FaZe in an online match. Against New York, I think that New York is pretty good, and I think New York's going to get up for this game. Clayster and Crim6, they're going to want this one, and it's not that OpTic won't. But I am going to say there's going to be back-to-back losses for OpTic. But I'm going to flip this right here, and I'm going to say that they beat the LA Thieves, and I'm going to do these last 2 matches as flips. Meaning, I think that they could go either way. I'm still going to go with the final record. I'm going to go with whatever I said in these columns right here. And then here we go for the final stretch of the regular season. I do think that they're going to beat Boston. I do think that they're going to beat Minnesota, and I'm going to say that this one's less of a flip. I'm thinking that this is going to be when OpTic is at its best. I know that Rambo likes to have his teams in top condition towards the end of the season, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that that's what's going to happen. It's what happened with the Dallas Empire team. They really peaked at the best time. I think that it's going to be another win against Paris. I think they're going to win against New York this time. But I think that they lose against Toronto, and it's going to be an important loss against Toronto because that's going to be the match that kind of just like sets the tone for them. And like, hey, you know, we've had a solid win streak. We've won 5 matches in a row. Depending on what happens here at this major in between, it could be more matches than that. But I am going to say I'm going to live with this, and I'm not going to do any flips for this final area right here. I'm going to say that OpTic goes 4-1 in that final area. So overall, I know that there are some tough stretches in here for OpTic Texas, but I do think that they do have. I just think the Call of Duty League has a lot of good teams this year, and it's going to be really tough to have a year like what Atlanta FaZe had last year, where they went. I can't remember exactly what their record was, but they lost like 3 matches all season long. So this is what I'm gonna go with here. So just like overall adding it up, for let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So 13 wins. Yeah, 13 wins, which makes it 7 losses. 13-7. I mean, you could definitely imagine better records than that, but I still think that 13-7 is going to be a good enough record to be a top 4 team in the league. I'm gonna just be ridiculous here and say that that's going to be. I'll say that's a 4th place finish. Right there, that's enough to get them into a winners bracket at champs, which is really what you can ask for there. I think that the 4 teams in my power rankings over here that are above them, Atlanta, Toronto, and Seattle, I think that those are going to be the teams that finish above OpTic. But overall, I'm gonna set this in stone. I'm sure people will disagree with a lot of these. Maybe people will have OpTic being significantly worse, maybe like 11-9, or maybe they'll have OpTic being like, I don't know, 17-3. I think that either of those are possible. I do think that OpTic's going to be a good team this year. They just have a couple stretches there that I think could be difficult, but I'm gonna go ahead and set this in stone, and make sure to like the video, leave a comment, engage with me on Twitter. I'm at Sean Z Collins, so I like to hear what other people have to say too.